Hey guys, it's Jay. Welcome back to my channel, where we discuss the popular culture of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's another Soul of Chogokin review, GX-04, the Grendizer. This is one review I've been really looking forward to, guys. UFO Robo Grendizer has always been one of my favorite cartoons of the 1980s. In reality, it was back in the 1970s when this cartoon actually came out. Nagai, as some of you already know, is one of my favorite manga creators. He also helped to spearhead many of the giant robot anime series which came out in the 70s and 80s. Grendizer, in my opinion, is one of his most incredible creations. He looks almost as if he goes in tandem with Mazinger Z, the great Mazinger, and then of course, he stands above all else. Without further ado, guys, let's get right into it. So, as with all the earlier versions of the Soul of Chogokin line, we can see that their choice of box is very well done. Grendizer has a very similar box style to the other two releases in the Soul of Chogokin series. They have this stone pattern in the background here, and Grendizer is offset with this kind of burgundy red. The character himself on the front picture is the wonderful Grendizer standing in one of his signature poses. His spinner arm is ready, set to launch. His fist is aimed upwards, and he's just looking towards the target. He's also attached with the signature attachment, which Lance is actually going to be piloting. And in the corner, we can actually see him in the saucer section mode, with Lance flying alongside him in his tiny little UFO spaceship. We can see that this is a 15 and up product, some marketing by Ban Dai, and we can actually see the original logo for UFO Robo Grendizer. The sides, just your standard UFO Robo Grendizer font. We can see if we lift this up a little bit, there's the actual GX-04 Soul of Chogokin logo. On the back, we can see some of the gimmicks that come with the actual figure itself. So the screw crusher punch, double hurricane, or in the English version, it's the double sickle. We can see the transformation sequence where the full Grendizer enters into the spaceship itself. And the combination cross, where Lance's double spacer actually unites with the Grendizer. The spacer itself, as a unit, fully closed up. The double drill units on the sides. The TFO, which of course we called UFO here in North America, and the wonderful display stand that it comes with. The top of the box is simply just another example of all of the gimmicks. The Grendizer himself, the spacer, the spaceship which Lance actually pilots, and of course the wonderful Grendizer himself. Okay, so this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's have a look at what's inside. Grendizer, for me, has always been a dream, and when I found that he was actually available as a Soul of Chogokin toy, I was beside myself. I remember trying to find him in any sort of Chinese local supermarket or something where I could possibly get my hands on him. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. I ended up having to order him online. So, the first thing that comes out of the box is the actual instruction manual. And as you can see, it comes with a pair of stickers. Okay. And let's just go ahead and take this out. All right, let's just zoom out a little bit here. That's the most I can go. This truly is a gigantic figure. So, as we can see, it is a massive box. And if we turn this around just here, we'll find the first sets of items, and they appear to be the stand which the Grendizer will sit on. So let's start by taking those out. Alright, so there is the stand where all of the pieces sit. This appears to be some sort of ramp. Interesting. Interesting, another display ramp. I think it's a ramp. And these look like feet or stands. You know what, let's just put it together now. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, this one goes here. Okay. And this one goes here. All right, so there we go. That's like that. And it appears as though this one here is attached to this section, like that. And then this, I believe, fastens these two here for final support. And there we are. It's an actual full display stand. Wonderfully designed. I already affixed the stickers earlier. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so let's have a look at what's inside. Wow. That's pretty impressive, guys. If we tilt it a little bit to see what else we can see. All of Grendizer's accessories, parts, the spazer itself is all really well self-contained. Again, I am fascinated by the way the Japanese are able to work really well with their packaging design. No wasted space in this whatsoever. I mean, the actual display stand was carefully crafted to be able to fit in the back, whereas all of Grendizer's gimmicks and parts are right here and available to be taken out right away. As a matter of fact, let's start pulling some of these things out right now. So here we can see all of Grendizer's fists, open fists, and hands. He also has his forearm attachments, his forearm launchers, and the actual screw crusher punches with fists on the inside. Wonderful. If we remove this portion here, we can see that the spazer actually needs some sort of assembly. This seems to be the actual cockpit where Duke Fried or Johnny Orion Quest actually sits when he's piloting the spazer. We have another of one of the spazer's wings where the actual spinner cutters sit and launch. The other wing as well. One of the actual spinners, beautifully designed. And down here we actually have, looks like Lance's ship. So before we get to the spazer itself, let's take off the plastic here. And there is the man himself, the UFO Robo, Grendizer. He is as intimidating as he seems in the cartoon. Just wonderfully designed. Okay, we'll put him aside for a second and just remove the rest of the pieces. Here is Lance's double spazer. Again, a wonderfully designed ship. Beautiful. The tail section of the spazer, of the double spazer. We have the UFO section of the spazer itself. Wonderfully designed. Just beautiful. And as we can see here is the other cutter and all of the other accessories which still need to be separated and put on for display. Okay, so let's just reset and we'll get right back into it. All right, guys, let's have a look at the Grendizer himself. Wow. He really is an amazingly designed figure. We can tell, just by looking at him, that he is somewhat a mixture of the great Mazinger Z, and brings all those elements to life in this particular figure. He has the same coloring motif as both of those wonderful giant robots. The black, the red, but he also has wonderful purple highlights, as well as an incredible set of horns, which of course in the series we know he uses to actually create thunder and lightning. Grendizer is reminiscent of some sort of horned demon. This is probably harkening back to his alien roots. It also probably has something to do with Japanese lore, as most of these cartoons are based off of. He has multitudes of horns, actually. We can see that he has at least 4 horns on the top of his head, protruding from the rear and onto his forehead. The 2 main horns, which are gigantic and yellow, are the ones which he uses to summon lightning. His face is very intimidating. The striking yellow eyes, the covered mouth, which is very much a favorite of mine, harkens back to ideas of Optimus Prime and other characters who would not show anything but the intimidation factor of their eyes. His neck and head pivot, and once he's in spazer mode or UFO mode, his head actually tilts all the way back so that we can actually do the proper transformation. Wonderful attention to detail. All right, so let's pan back a little bit. So let's start with some of his shoulder elements. As we all know, one of Grendizer's signature weapons is his double harken, or in North America, his double sickle. For his double sickle, we need these 2 attachments. They fit on his shoulders, and when he calls for them, they shoot out and retract and become part of the double harken, or double sickle. These only fit one way, so you have to make sure you get them in the correct proportion. So it's actually this way and this way respectively. They have little teeth here which connect to these little grooves on the shoulders. Once you hear the snap, you should be okay. Careful when you're attaching these, as there are little bits of flash, and if they catch too much of the actual paint on the die cast, it has a tendency to scrape off paint. So definitely be a little bit more aware of that. There. It really does give a more menacing look as everything seems to move downwards on his shoulders. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in some other accessories. First thing we'll do is we'll bring in one of his forearms. So, as always, really love these forearms. They are magnetic, as with the other Soul of Chogokin series, and I just adore that, as it really is a wonderful concept for attaching accessories. So we'll just do here, and as you can see, once again, just put here and just let go and it snaps. Beautiful. All right. So along with that, let's just put a closed fist. Again, wonderful attention to detail here. We can see the spikes on the actual backhand, the detail in the fist itself. Really great stuff. And of course it just pops on right here, like this. Oh yeah, that is a tight fit. All right. Okay, now let's try one of the launching gimmicks. So we'll just take this launcher here. And unlike in previous models, we don't have to assemble this one. It's already been pre-assembled, which in my opinion is really great. So this one, just like before, just comes in here, snaps, and you're good to go. All right. So let's just get it all posed up. Put this up like this here. All right, so now he's ready for his launching gimmick. Now we can't have a launching gimmick unless we have a launcher. And that would be right here. Oops. So let's take the actual screw crusher punch, which already has a fist inside, which is, again, great attention to detail. And we'll just attach it here like this, wait for the snap, and Grendizer is ready for action. Again, I love these launching gimmicks. I mentioned before that back in the 80s, somebody in North America, basically parent groups or whatever, complained of kids losing eyes and things like that, which is such a myth. I really never heard of anyone actually losing an eye, but I guess you can't really blame them. But I love the idea of a launching gimmick. I mean, it's just so satisfying. I mean, listen, look at this. Wow. Literally, it launches all the way across the room. It's so great. All right, guys. So this is the actual Grendizer himself. Let's just pan back here to see him in all his glory. Just an amazing figure. Wonderful attention to detail here. But we're not done yet. Let's see what happens when we finish assembling the spacer. All right, guys, we're back and we're gonna take a look at the actual spacer unit itself. The spacer is what Grendizer uses to travel around in, and obviously for much quicker mobility. It is a gigantic UFO saucer. And later on in the series, we realized that it also serves as a gigantic target. So they actually have to find other means for Grendizer to be able to move around quickly. The spacer itself is not made of die cast. It is completely plastic. It has wonderful details. The bay here opens. The top piece opens like this, so you can see. The bottom pieces here, they open to the left and the right. They are a little difficult to open, so you have to what I usually do is I press on here and then open that section like that. and then I press on here to open the section like that. This unit comes down, forward and down. That's to allow for the grandizer to come in without scratching the paint, because that's very important. It's very easy to scratch the paint for grandizer at this time. The rear section here opens just like it does in the series, which is so awesome. And of course, the other bay, of course, drops down as well. You can even see the Japanese took so much attention to detail, even on the inner side of the bay. If we were to actually zoom in there, you can actually see a lot of detail in there. It really is something else. The Japanese really spare no expense when it comes to things like that. They love the attention to detail. All right. Okay, so now that we've opened it all up, let's close her back up and actually put most of the spacer back together. The engineering that went behind this is just amazing. I mean, how did they come up with these things? The Japanese engineers are just incredible. So that closes up nice and tight there. This one comes down. And you have to kind of give it some effort to actually get everything nice and tight. This one here closes back up. This one comes back down. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually extend the feet at the bottom. Now this wasn't exactly a detail in the series. I don't remember the grandizer ever landing on feet, but they did it here so that we could actually have the benefit of putting something down. This one's the most difficult because I don't want to scratch the paint. At the same time, I don't want to ruin this section either, but it can be difficult. You just gotta work with it, I guess. Come on. There it goes. All right, so with these deployed, you can actually put the spacer down and we'll start working with it on the ground. Okay, now that the spacer is secure, and we'll move around, well, kind of tilt and pan, we can grab the first wing and it just pretty much pops in right here like this. Once you hear the snap, you're good to go. We'll do the same thing with the other wing. Again, once you hear the snap, you're good to go. All right, so now we have both wings in place. We can just grab the first cutter. And this one fixes itself right on top here. You see there's a groove here. And you can just take that and just use, you can actually line up this little, there's a tiny slot right here. You can actually see it's a little bit cut out from there. That actually fits right into the arrow portion of the wing. And once you hear the snap, again, you're good to go. Beautiful. So we'll grab the other one and just do the exact same thing. Again, find the notch, line it up with the actual arrow, snap it in, and you're good to go. Okay, and the last portion of the spacer is the tail section with the pilot's seat as well. So that again, we just line it up here with this section. We can see that there's a groove where the nose sits. And just like before, we just snap it in. And the spacer is complete. Wonderful attention to detail here in the spacer. You can see that the paint does have a little bit of bleed, but it's really not much of a deal breaker. But just a wonderful attention to detail, exactly like it is in the cartoon. The extra little pieces here where there's some indented details, that's a wonderful touch. Oh, actually, shoot, I've totally forgot. We're still missing 2 additional pieces. And that, of course, is the side hooks, or side horns, if you will. The Grendizer wouldn't be complete without these. So these are just another molded plastic, and they come around here, and both of them can easily just snap right in. That side and that side. And there we go. Now the spacer is, actually, you know what? I think I put these upside down. Yeah, these should actually be more like this way. There we go, and this way. Yeah, they weren't fitting exactly 100%, they weren't flush. So now that you can see that it's pretty flush on that side, there was a small gap on the other side when I did it the other way. Yeah, so wonderful attention to detail here on the spacer. Again, if you take a look at the thruster engines, you can see the indentations and the details there. And even here on the bottom, you don't really get to see much of this on the show, but yeah, the feet really weren't there, but this is beautiful attention to detail. All right, now what I'll also do just while we're here is we're going to pay a little bit more attention to the actual cutters. So as you can see, the cutters themselves, they have, as in the show, they open, and this is kind of tricky again, I just don't want to match the paint, but they open to reveal the drillers. And once they're nice and open completely, we can then grab the drill accessory. Wonderful detail here as well. We can attach that right here. The peg goes into the hole. Beautiful. And we can do the exact same thing on the other side. Just open her up. Just like that. And we'll grab the drill. Place it on top. And once again, beautiful attention to detail right there. All right, so this will be the end of part 1. And in the next video, we're actually going to put Grendizer and position him into the spacer itself. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. And once again, if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like. It really helps me out. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions on comics, collectibles, toys, or anything else you'd like me to review, please leave that in the comment section below. And consider subscribing, as I have a lot more of these videos on the way. Also, consider sharing this episode with someone who you think might enjoy it. Well, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Geek proud. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button and consider subscribing to my channel for more reviews like this one. And as always, thanks for watching.